This is WVUA News with special championship week coverage from Alabama's home team.
So glad you're joining us for this special national championship edition of WVUA News at 6 live from the Superdome. I'm Lynn Brooks.
And I am Terry Brewer, also live from the Superdome. Now, Philip Coleman will join us in Tuscaloosa in just a few moments. But first, the countdown is on, the clock is ticking. We are just about 90 minutes from kickoff of the BCS National Championship game between Alabama and LSU. Can you believe it is almost finally here?
Woo, almost, and it is getting louder and louder
and louder by the moment.
And this didn't just happen today. This has been going on all week, Terry. Alabama fans pouring into the Big Easy all week. On Saturday, the Tide faithful gathered by the thousands in the French Quarter for the pregame Alabama pep rally. Of course, the $1 Million Band, the cheerleaders, and Big Al all on hand, getting fans fired up for the big game. It was a place where all the Crimson Tide faithful could come together in a place where they thought they might have been outnumbered, but turns out not always the case.
That's right. At the pep rally, signing autographs for Crimson Tide fans, of course, Alabama legend Sean Alexander. Hundreds of fans were lined up to get his autograph. There were so many lined up, in fact, that we didn't get a chance to talk to him because he was, or on camera at least, because he was too busy signing those autographs. But he told us he is glad to be here in New Orleans and glad to be ready to see Alabama pull off another national championship win.
And you know, your home team has been here all week long, bringing you interesting stories from right here in the Big Easy. And I have to tell you, Terry, you know, sometimes you just come upon something, a story that just has to be told.
Yeah.
And this next story definitely falls into that category. I was out and about walking on the outskirts of New Orleans and saw a big concrete wall and just had to know what was on the other side of it. Here's what I found.
A refreshing pool and hot tub, palm trees overhead, and French-style architecture.
And not only that, we're in the heart of everything. So we're like 2 blocks from the quarter and like a little less than a mile away from the Superdome walking distance.
It is high-class camping, and Bama fan Mike Rowell and his dog are letting the good times roll.
That is Al. It's Alvin, short for Big Al. We've got a bear too, but he's at home.
And the Rowells might want to keep their guard dog close by.
It's in a seedy part of town, you might say.
That might explain why this Crimson Tide compound has an intimidating crowd of dangerous daggers.
Just outside, where the dry dock starts. Go all the way to the back of the dry dock. Yeah, I mean, it's New Orleans. It's New Orleans, you know. I mean, it's all you can really say. I mean, it's a party city, you know.
So to get into this RV resort, you've got to make it past multiple security cameras, also this razor-sharp barrier that's surrounding all of the walls, barricading you in. You also have to show a special security card to get past this gate. Now, in spite of all these precautions, we spoke with Bama fans who say they are not the least bit concerned about their safety while they're here in the French Quarter. Did you happen to notice the sharp razor wire?
Yeah. We feel real safe. I mean, we don't have any concerns about being here. It's just really, really nice. We like it.
And fans told me if you don't have your own alarm system, just use good old-fashioned common sense while you're in the French Quarter.
Just pay attention to what you're doing and don't be crazy. You know, you take cabs and go to different places, you're fine.
But before you get too cozy, remember, there is a tiger on the prowl.
Yes, there definitely is a tiger on the prowl, and the Tide faithful certainly know that. You know, Terry, that lot has actually been booked since way back in the summer, so everybody wanting to get into that lot.
Yeah, and just about 200 yards from that lot is an example of some of the beautiful Southern architecture you'll see here in New Orleans. Only in New Orleans will you see the type of architecture that is really so prevalent here. But this one we want to show you is not on a building, but rather a cemetery. Now, St. Louis #1 is Louisiana's oldest functioning cemetery. Now, there are still funerals in the cemetery, and it was laid out back in 1789, but because of fires and other natural disasters, some of the records have been lost. There's even a legend that there is a voodoo queen that is in the cemetery, and if you leave her something, maybe she will help you grant a wish that you want. So maybe there's some truth to that, maybe it's a legend, you just decide.
That's right. A lot of Alabama fans want that good luck. They want it on their side.
Especially tonight.
Because the rivalry is heated, and that's no secret between the Tide and Tigers. But I want to tell you that both teams did put those differences aside to do something for a good cause, all part of the BCS Service Project. Students from both the University of Alabama and LSU got together. They cleaned up a local baseball field and also painted the Boys and Girls Club of Southwest Louisiana. Also planted some plants out there. And it wasn't just about New Orleans, though. Volunteers also made some blankets to give back to people affected by April's deadly storms back in Tuscaloosa. So the two teams, while they are opponents tonight, enemies some might say, certainly teaming up for a good cause while they were down here in the Big Easy.
Yeah, the good news, and especially I know both states have been touched by disaster and know what that's like, and so good to see them putting that aside.
It is.
And we've got a lot more coming from New Orleans.
We do, but first we're going to take it back to our Tuscaloosa studios.
All right, thanks Lynn and Terry. And in just a few minutes from now, a tailgating party will kick off for students at the Capstone. The University of Alabama is hosting a viewing party for students who couldn't make it to New Orleans. The party will include food from New Orleans and a king cake. All this fun kicks off at the Ferguson Student Center starting at 6:30. On a much different note, a Tuscaloosa County school administrator has resigned amid allegations of an inappropriate relationship with a former student. Tuscaloosa County School Superintendent Dr. Frank Costanzo says he cannot comment on any personnel matters, but he did confirm that Hillcrest Assistant Principal Dr. William Butch Young has turned in his resignation. Tuscaloosa attorney Paul Patterson says he filed a civil suit on behalf of a former student on Saturday. And according to Patterson, the suit claims that Young had a sexually inappropriate relationship with a female student that began when she was a sophomore at Tuscaloosa County High School. Patterson also says that Young was serving as the assistant principal at that school during that time. WVUA has made calls to Young's attorney, and we're still waiting for his response. However, today's Tuscaloosa News is reporting that an attorney for Young has denied the claims of this suit and says that Young resigned because of a lack of support from the school system. Now let's head back to Lynn Brooks and Terry Brewer, who are live from New Orleans.
Lots more special coverage when WVUA News at 6 live from the Superdome continues. You know, football fans will go to great lengths to get inside tonight's game. We'll show you some unique ways the Tide faithful made their way into the Big Easy. On Tuesday, there weren't a lot of Bama fans around, but with the game day finally here, looks like everybody's set and ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, WVUA reporter Bradley Whittington, it takes us to Bourbon Street where all the action is to show us where the fandemonium began.
Some decided to skip, and some took a bike. But most people took the faster route, like the car or the train. But regardless of how they got here, they're all here for one reason.
We're here for the national championship game on Monday night when Alabama's going to beat LSU.
Bama fans may be outnumbered in the Big Easy, but that's not stopping them from sticking together and having a little fun. Fans of all ages have come to cheer on the Crimson Tide. from very young to very old.
Love Alabama. I've been watching them for 70 years. I'm the oldest man here.
No matter where you are in New Orleans, it's hard to walk down the street without hearing this.
Roll Tide! Roll Tide, roll. Roll Tide, roll Tide. Roll Tide. Roll Tide, roll. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
While most things here on Bourbon Street are very confusing and crazy, one thing seems to be very clear, that Bama fans are finally here. Reporting from Bourbon Street, I'm Bradley Whittington for WVUA News.
And so right now, those fans are either making their way into the Superdome,
Yes.
or they are finding that perfect place to watch the game.
I wonder where that guy who was skipping.
Maybe we'll find him.
Wonder where he went.
Maybe after the news tonight.
I've got a question. Where is Richard Scott, and how's the forecast looking? If you've got that same question, stick around. We've got your home team forecast coming up as we continue our special coverage live from New Orleans here on WVUA News at 6.
Now, the Tuscaloosa Chevrolet Sports Update with WVUA's Gary Harris.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Kickoff is just a little more than an hour away. It's time to play the game, finally. Everybody is ready to do that. Well, before we talk more about the game, though, we're going to talk about the two head coaches in tonight's big game. At first glance, these two look like polar opposites, Nick Saban and Les Miles, but as our Todd Hoyer tells us, if you look closer, you'll find out they have more in common than you might think.
It is pretty ironic that in order for Nick Saban to win his third BCS national championship and Alabama's 14th, he must defeat the team he brought back to prominence and the man that replaced him as head coach.
I have a lot of special memories of my experience here in Louisiana at LSU for what was accomplished in the program here, and no one's ever going to take that away.
In 5 years at LSU, Nick Saban won 48 games and lost 16. He won 28 games against the SEC, losing only 12. Miles won 51 games and lost 15 from 2005 to 2009 and posted a record of 27-13 in the SEC. Both won national championships for the Tigers as well. Despite the almost identical records, Nick Saban says he and Les Miles will not be taking snaps from the center at any point during the game.
First of all, this game's not about me. It's not about me for me. Okay, it doesn't define who I am as a person in terms of what we do. You know, we coach for the players, and I'm most concerned about doing a good job for our team and our players and the institution that we represent.
I congratulate Coach Saban for being in this game. I think that this game and the significance of its outcome really transcends, personality or style or stuff. I think this is about, quality teams playing for a very significant title.
For all of their differences in style and personality, Nick Saban and Les Miles are very much alike. And regardless of the outcome Monday night, both coaches figure to be in this position again in the future. Reporting from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, Todd Hoyer, WVUA Sports.
Joined now by home team sports and news anchor John Huddleston. And these coaches have said all the right things this week, John, but let's be clear. It's nothing personal, but they both want to beat each other very bad in this football game tonight.
Yeah, absolutely they do. They're friends, I think, during when the game's not going on, but once that the whistle starts and the clock starts ticking, things change a lot for these guys. You kind of got to wonder too, Gary, who this is a bigger game for. I mean, you know, if Nick Saban loses, it's going to be 3 straight losses to Les Miles, and Les Miles, he needs to beat Nick Saban in the national championship game.
It is bigger for Nick Saban.
Yeah.
No coach has ever beaten Nick Saban 3 straight games. Les Miles could be the first.
Yeah.
All right, preparation-wise, we were back in Tuscaloosa. We followed the team the whole time. By all accounts, and from what we saw, everything went great. That seems to have continued here in New Orleans. Practices were crisp, and I mean, if LSU wins, they're the better team, because I think Alabama is ready to play and is going to play a great game. Isn't that what you're feeling?
Yes, absolutely. Alabama looks like a team on a mission right now. You know, I think they were a little embarrassed after the loss on November 5th back in Tuscaloosa. They look like they're ready to play right now. I think Trent Richardson put it very correctly this week. And yes, Alabama does have a bit of a chip on their shoulder right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was going to be my next thing I wanted to talk about. We've talked about it this week off camera. Trent Richardson's the best running back in the country. He always is on a mission, so I don't want to say that, you know, he always runs hard, but there is no doubt he is locked and loaded for this game. I think he feels like he and this team have something to prove against LSU. I'm looking for him to have a monster game, win or lose.
Well, you look at what he's gone through the last month or so, you know, losing the Heisman and then obviously losing to LSU, and he's heard all month long about how LSU's the better team. He's got something he wants to prove.
Well, it's a little more than an hour away. A reminder, we'll be back after the game tonight. When the ESPN telecast is over, we'll start our news then, so flip over to WVUA for complete post-game coverage. For John Huddleston, I'm Gary Harris. We'll be back after this.
This has been the Tuscaloosa Chevrolet Sports Update on WVUA. Roll, Chevy, roll.